more sourcing and comprehensive, etc. And so, similarly, actually, we're seeing EHRMs begin to actually open up the data themselves. But I think it's actually kind of a combination of the two that would be where magic happens.
Thank you. So I'm going to take one moment to remind our radio listeners that you're listening to the Commonwealth Club of California radio program. Today, we're speaking with Todd, Chief Technology Officer of the United States, who is discussing the impact of advances in technology on America's healthcare system. So I'm going to follow up on your last point with a question from the audience related to that quality of data that we really need to have. As we tend to move from one system to another, every time we look back at our prior data, we realize the poor quality of that data. Our clinical research colleagues always remind us that when they go and rigorously look at a lot of our data, it's not good enough to have done clinical research on, yet we're taking care of patients with it. So you talk about making patient data machine readable, yet a lot of the information is unstructured. Can't talk about specific initiatives to make more structured health data, and what have you seen has been successful so far?
Yeah, wonderful question. So I would say there are at least three components to the answer. So one is that there is, as a lot of folks know here, just a lot of work happening in this public-private collaboration led by the Office of National FIT to bring increased structure and robustness to clinical data in the electronic health records so that it actually can be on a regular basis for clinical decision support, to population analytics, etc. On top of that, there have actually been a great many advances in technology in general to take unstructured data and turn it into meaningful structured data. And so there's a bunch of work happening across the country on that front as well. In fact, there are actually a fair number of people that argue in the book, while you want to bring structure to certain elements of the record, there are other elements of the record you really don't want to bring too much structure to because you might actually lose valuable information as you structure it and clean it up. So I think, again, it's important to both advance structure of data, but also actually keep certain elements in the way the doctor actually meant to say them, and then apply technologies like natural language processing to be able to extract insight from that on a regular basis. And the final thing I would say is that one general truth about data is it gets more useful as it actually gets used. So as the data in records ceases to be stuff that molders away in an old folder, right? It actually becomes liquid and becomes accessible to the patient and the patient's family, right? It becomes accessible to other doctors. But you think you'll find the quality of that data improving fairly significantly as it gets exercised as opposed to just molding. So we're already beginning to see that. And I think that's a very promising trend.
Excellent point. So this next questioner is concerned about exactly the opposite. They said there's already an increasing and overwhelming deluge of information from consumers and in healthcare. Isn't there a risk of the problem getting worse? And how are we going to avoid the deluge getting in the way of taking care of our patients?
So I actually think we've got a deluge of data and a paucity of information. And we shouldn't confuse the two. And one of the things we actually really want to do by, for example, making data from the Baltic government available, like data about hospital quality or community health or the latest knowledge about asthma, is we want to unleash the ingenuity of innovators across the country to take that data and turn it into truly actionable information and insight in consumer-friendly services and experiences, which we are seeing happen on a very, very broad scale. It's really not for competency of government to build every single consumer-friendly tool in the universe on the internet, right? What we can do is take the public good that is this data about, say, hospital quality, nursing home quality, and make it available to ingenious entrepreneurs and across the country who can then apply their mojo, right, their experience, their expertise, their people, their technology, their capital, to develop fantastic customer experiences that make that data relevant, that turn it into information in a way that again, no one organization could possibly do by itself.
Excellent. So we have a question from someone who's done that, and they've developed a small company or a product that they say is proven, and they're wondering how do they then go through the gauntlet of getting reimbursement for such a thing so that it might get adopted into the market. Any comments on that?
Well, I mean, it depends upon, of course, what the specific innovation actually is. But what I will say in general is that it's as important to innovate business models as it is to innovate the actual product. In fact, it's actually very important to do both simultaneously, and both can integrate within one. So we're seeing an extraordinary amount of innovation actually on both fronts, the product business model simultaneously. And I think that the good news is that the overall market environment is changing pretty radically in your favor. Just to make it super concrete again, in a world that was dominated by fee-for-service payment, right? It was a very tough environment in which to introduce many innovations that improve quality, efficiency, etc. Because if you actually introduce innovation that enables the patient to avoid a hospital readmission or admission, right? Not only is there no business case for that, there's a negative business case because actually your customer, who is the provider, would bankrupt themselves by depriving themselves of admissions and readmissions, right? I mean, it's financial suicide. So in a world where now health system doctors are increasingly going to be paid to keep people healthy proactively, right? And it's no longer going to be financial suicide to actually keep people out of the ER, keep people out of the hospital, right? Innovations that can actually use data to improve the quality and efficiency of care coordination, and practical interventions to actually help people out of the hospital, that now has a very positive business case. Now, how exactly you tap into the value created using the business model is there are many possible choices. But at least you're operating in an environment where you are actually creating fundamental economic value for actors who, in some way, shape, or form, can help you monetize the value and thereby help you scale your solution.
Thank you. And so the government's been helping us out over with some of this innovation. There was recently released some wireless spectrum that was going to be dedicated to healthcare devices. And the question is, what are you seeing in the development of devices that are collecting data, specifically vital signs and other discrete data, with the patient then being sent wirelessly to various places? Can you tell us about some successes that you're seeing and where you're hopeful in that space?
Yeah, there's an enormous amount of innovation happening here, and I think that's an area of a tremendous opportunity. Again, I think it's important to think about that sector of innovation not as separate from what we've been talking about, but as intersected with it. And a lot of the work that we're seeing that is most exciting is when you have situations where, say, next generation primary care practices are extending their theater of operations, if you will, to the home, and instrumenting homes and patients with sensors that actually enable there to be a much richer, real-time, ongoing information-laden connection between docs and patients. Particularly important actually for those who are aging, particularly important for folks who have chronic disease, and it actually generating very, very exciting initial results. And again, even driven by an overall shift in the marketplace, where you're now actually supported financially for deploying that kind of technology, extending the relationship as docs to patients in their home, leveraging technology like sensors, leveraging IT, where that actually is something that is supported and funded by the market overall.
So not everyone must agree with you. So what are some of the strongest criticisms of your initiatives, and how do you respond to them?
I think that I've been struck by the range and depth of support for this general idea. The idea of actually enabling data to be free while protecting privacy and confidentiality, and having offers that innovators take that data and turn it into awesomeness, turn it into processes that can help patients, help doctors, help communities, and employers. I think there are a number of important things to just keep in mind that are incredibly important for all of us who are passionate about this to keep in mind. One is that it's critically important to protect patient privacy and confidentiality. We've been very, very aggressive about that. I think that's been very, very important throughout the health data liberation movement, as we talked about. And I actually do believe, and this is responsibility, you can actually make data liquid. You can make data accessible to folks like patients while protecting privacy and confidentiality. I don't think that privacy and data liquidity are mutually exclusive. In fact, I think they can be quite mutually reinforcing in many ways. I think that the other thing that is important to keep in mind is, again, just continued emphasis on let the data go. Let the data be free. And let patients have a copy of their own data. Let entrepreneurs and innovators get access to data like provider quality data, insurance price data, et cetera. One really important lesson that we learned along the way was mentioned briefly earlier, but let me touch on it again. When we did our first health data palooza in the summer of 2010, we actually had two types of folks in the audience for the palooza and these events. One was entrepreneurs and innovators who got really inspired by what these 20 entrepreneurs and innovators had done with our data and went to go build more stuff. The second was another group of people who were data owners inside HHS, who, again, weren't necessarily completely sold on the idea of letting data go, because they could only imagine horribleness and not awesomeness, right? But when they actually saw the awesomeness got built with it, they said, oh, I understand, right? They saw the upside. They said, if I actually make my data accessible and distributable and known, there are a lot of other very smart people who care just as much about healthcare as I do, who want to improve just as much as I do, right? Who have access to resources I don't, will at no cost to me take the data and turn it into applications and services that can help people get access to the right care at the right time, can improve health literacy, can help the senior actually manage asthma, can help the doctor manage that senior's asthma, can help the mayor make a better public policy decision, and advance the goal of improving healthcare. And so then they chose to liberate their data, inspired by that, which then fed more awesomeness, which then inspired more people to liberate the data, which then fed more awesomeness, and now we're in the virtual spiral where it's just way the heck out of control. And that's exactly where we want it to be.
It's awesome. So we're at the time of the program where we're only have time for one real brief question. So I'm going to throw this one out to you from the audience again. You described President Obama as having a high geek quotient. What have you seen from him that makes you say that, specifically with the new tech initiatives? Plus, who's the bigger geek, you or the president?
Well, so the president is hugely enthusiastic about the power of data innovation to improve well-being in the country. And he is really excited about technology, not just for its own sake, but really, really excited about the power of technology to improve the lives of Americans, to help improve our healthcare, to help improve education outcomes, to help create jobs, help grow the economy. So he's my kind of geek. Of course, because he's the president, of course he's a bigger geek than me. A much more powerful geek than me. But what's very, very exciting is to work for a president who is so deeply, genuinely excited about the power of data innovation to improve the future of the country. It's just an incredible honor and privilege to work for a president like that. And as you can tell, I'm having an absolute blast, as is my whole team.
Very well said. Our thanks to Todd Park, Chief Technology Officer of the United States. We also thank our audiences here and on the radio. This program has been generously underwritten by the California Healthcare Foundation. And again, I'm Dr. Michael Blum of UCSF Medical Center. And now, this meeting of the Commonwealth Club of California, the place